Hello. Today we're going to talk about your final essay for the Pact, which you will write an essay comparing one of Benjamin Franklin's aphorisms to the major themes of the novel. We've talked about Benjamin Franklin's aphorisms in the beginning of this unit. In fact, here is a hyperlink to that assignment. I've also mentioned to you many times that you should be looking to see if any of those aphorisms fit in with the different themes of the novel. We've also talked a lot about different themes of the Pact, so hopefully you're able to connect all this information together and put it into an essay. So as far as requirements go, you need to have 4 paragraphs, an intro, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. In each body paragraph, you need to have at least 2 direct quotes, properly sourced. You don't need a works cited page. Just after the quote, put in parentheses, name of the author, the page number. As you can see here, this is how you cite a book with multiple authors. You just use the first last name author, et al., and then the page number. So you're always going to have this in your citation. Okay. The only thing that would be different would be whatever page number you happen to find that quote on. Okay. You also have to include the writing techniques that we have been studying, the different sentence types and parallel structure. You have to highlight them in these colors. So you need to include 2 examples of parallel structure in yellow, 1 example of a complex sentence highlighted in orange, 1 compound sentence highlighted in green, and 1 compound complex sentence highlighted in blue. You need to have these number of examples. You need to also highlight them in the proper colors here. Okay, you will lose points if you do not. As far as tips for organizing your essay, there's a few different ways you can do it. One, you can pick 1 aphorism and just apply that to different examples from the story. Or you can include a different aphorism in each body paragraph. Maybe you have 1 aphorism that applies to one particular theme, one particular situation, and then your next body paragraph is a different aphorism that applies to a different theme or situation from the novel. It's really up to you. You can do either. Just no matter what, make sure you mention the aphorisms you are applying. If you're doing 2 different ones, you want to mention them in each body paragraph. Even if you're doing just 1, you still want to mention in the body paragraph just to keep everything organized. Here is the rubric on how I will grade you. So make sure you click on that and you refer to it while you're writing. The honors distinction elements. Okay, so this is the first time this year I'm going to involve the honors distinction components. Remember, if you want honors distinction, that's something that you will have to decide by January. Before we get there, though, I strongly urge you to complete the honors distinction requirements for the different final assessments we have so you can really judge to see if you are ready to take on the honors challenge. No matter what, if you do these elements, you will receive extra credit. So even if you're a student who's not planning on taking honors distinction, although if you're capable of doing this work, I would recommend that you do it anyway. But if you're not, you're still going to get extra credit no matter what. So if you're planning on taking honors distinction or you're not planning on it, either way, if you do this extra component, you will get 5 extra credit points. And basically the extra credit component, the honors distinction component is an additional body paragraph. So your essay would be 5 paragraphs in length, 3 body paragraphs instead of 2. 1 additional example of each of the writing techniques mentioned above. So instead of 2 examples of parallel structure, you would have 3. Instead of 1 example of a complex sentence, you would have 2, and so on. Also, if you look at the rubric, you will be graded with a fairly higher level of expectations. Your writing style, your thesis, your analysis will all be graded in a higher way as far as your level of analysis and writing. I will be using the plagiarism checker on Google Classroom for this assignment for the final essay. Just keep in mind, if you do plagiarize, heavy consequences, a 0. This is a major assignment. This could make or break your grade for the entire marking period. So if you get a 0, that's going to be tough. Home would be contacted and you would be written up as well. I run National Honor Society. We do track students who cheat. It may be difficult to get into NHS if you are caught cheating. So just be aware. All right. As far as due dates and the timeline goes, you owe an outline, which we're going to talk about in a second, on this Wednesday. It's going to be worth 10 points. The rough draft will be due at the beginning of class on 10/22 for period 3, and then 10/23 for period 4 and 7. And then your final draft we do later that night, the same day that you the rough draft. Okay, so 10 p.m., 10:22 for period 3, 10 p.m., 10:23, period 4 and 7. Okay. All right, now the outline. This is the outline. So here, you're going to get some practice with writing the thesis statement. This explains what the thesis statement is. Okay, this gives you an example. I don't know if you took Roche's class last year, if you did or didn't. Here's an example of what a solid thesis would look like. Okay, so read through that and now put your own potential thesis for your essay here in this box. Okay, obviously you're going to need to decide on what aphorisms you want to choose and what themes you want to link those aphorisms to. So once you make that decision, you can then make a pretty solid thesis. Okay, then you want to write your first body paragraph. This writing method called ICE-T, this is something that hopefully was introduced to you last year in Mr. Roche's class. If you didn't take Mr. Roche's class, then I think this will be a good start for you. This is basically one of the formulas you can use to write a body paragraph. You don't always need to use this exact formula, but especially if you're a student who struggles with writing, having this formula in your toolkit, I think will really help you make a better body paragraph. Okay, so ICE-T is a catchy way of remembering all these different elements. They don't necessarily appear in this order, okay, but you do remember introduce your main idea, cite your evidence, explain your evidence, and transition into your citation. And citation means your quote. All right, so here's an example. Okay, so you introduce your main idea. Here's two different ways you can do that. Okay, possibly the most obvious way that the man fits the hero archetype is through his decisive and risky actions. Transition into your citation. Okay, you're using a transitional phrase before you jump into the quote. An early example of the man's decisive action is seen when his son is threatened by the hostile stranger known as the road rat. Okay, and then you would have your quote, your citation right after that. Here's the quote. Citation, you would want to add the author last name here. I think it's McCarthy, right? Is the author of The Road. Okay. And then the last thing you do is you explain your quote. Basically, in your explanation, you connect your main idea and your quote. Okay. So introduce your main idea, transitional statement into your quote, then explain why your quote proves your main idea. Okay. And then you would repeat this process again for your second quote, but you wouldn't need to introduce, right? Because you've already done that. You don't need to introduce your main idea again. You could reiterate it, maybe with different wording, but you don't necessarily have to. Okay, so if the next one would be transition, you could say another example of blah, 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 and then jump into your next quote and your next explanation. Okay, so this outline would be how you write your body paragraphs. Okay, as you can see, you have space for the two quotes here. Okay, your second body paragraph and the third body paragraph, again, is only required if you want to do the honors distinction requirement, or if you just want extra credit, then you would include the third body paragraph information here. Okay, so that is the outline, and then when you start working on your rough draft, you basically just take all this information, add it into a Word doc, add in an intro, add in the conclusion, tweak things that you see, make sure the wording is good, make sure you sprinkle in some high-level vocabulary. That's where you want to start incorporating the different writing techniques, parallel structure, the different sentence types. This outline is just to get your information down, okay, and your main ideas and all your evidence. Don't worry about the writing techniques just yet. After the outline, you transfer everything to your rough draft, then you want to start adding in all these additional components here. Okay, but my big advice here is get all your ideas down, even in your rough draft. If you want to wait to your final draft to start to incorporate the different writing techniques, that's fine too. But your ideas should come first, and then you sprinkle in the writing techniques. You try to add in some more high-level vocabulary. You edit and make your essay better for your final draft. Okay, so that is the Pact essay, and I will answer any questions you have in class. Thanks, guys.